Good morning. Good morning. So, you've made the decision that you've got to find another job, um, or the decision's been made for you that you've got to find another job. And you get your CV and you go and put it on a few job boards. You make sure that your profile on LinkedIn and other social media is up to speed. That it talks about your most recent role in more detail than it's had for a while. That you go around putting everything out there and starting to look at where there may be jobs for you. And all of a sudden, you these days it's going to be you get messaged, either on a LinkedIn message, or perhaps it's an email that's sent back from one of the job boards that you've been on or whatever, from a recruiter. What do you do? You've got a recruiter coming to you now. What do you do? So let me talk a little bit today about the recruitment industry, what it means and what it means to you, what it should mean to you, and what you need to do with each and every recruiter that calls, because each and every recruiter is not the same. There is a whole bag of difference between uh, one recruiter and another. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of that today, and give you some ideas as to how you should perhaps do a little bit of qualifying of these people. So let's look at the recruitment industry for a minute. And you can break this down into basically three groups, maybe. Certainly, one way of looking at these three groups: there are internal recruiters, there are external recruiters, and there are headhunters. Now, headhunters are obviously an external recruitment organization as much as the other external recruiters, but they carry a different connotation. Um, Internal recruiters uh, and external recruiters, then you can further break down into those that are generalist and those that are specialist. Now, I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, when you get a call from a recruiter, the chances are that it's going to be from a generalist recruiter. Uh, there are far more generalist recruiters out there than there are specialist recruiters, is my point. Um, and within internal recruitment, it's probably true to say, it's not exclusively true to say this, but it's probably true to say this, that 70%, 80% of those that work in internal recruitment are generalists by nature. Whereas our external recruitment, it's probably more 60-40. I don't know, 60-40s might be a bit generous. However, the point is that the generalist recruiter does not serve our neck of the woods. It doesn't serve mid to senior level professionals within the technology sector very well. Any role that has a specialist requirement about it, generalist recruiters don't get their head around because they're generalists. They deal with general recruitment very well. They deal with the common roles within an organization very well. They're very good at churning through volumes of commoditized recruitment. They're very good at doing those sorts of numbers that are needed for that sort of recruitment. And this is true both internally and externally. But one thing I would differentiate between the two: the internal recruiter has a much better knowledge of their own organization than the external recruiter when it's generalist recruitment. And so they are, if you are interested in a specific job that they approach you about, they are better to deal with the internal generalist recruiter than the external generalist recruiter. The external generalist recruiter, let me tell you where he's coming from or she's coming from. She's coming from a volume process whereby they are chasing down as many jobs as they possibly can to get as many CVs out into the market as they possibly can, within the hope that you throw enough at the wall, some of it's going to stick. And that really isn't serving anybody. Indeed, most of the time, it muddies the water because it all falls off the board, doesn't it? And it leaves the market, that area of the market, in a confusion, because people like yourself are being contacted by multiple recruiters, uh, and really you don't know where they're coming from. It's confusion. It doesn't leave clarity, and it doesn't make you feel like you're in any way special to these people. Um, Whereas if we move up the market a little bit to the specialist recruiter, doing a lot less of the volume stuff, uh, or up further to the headhunter who is being very targeted and specific, then you are getting more of that feeling of you are important to them, that they've done some research on you, and that they maybe understand a bit more about you. So that's so now let's move back to the internal recruiter, and the specialists within the internal recruiter. Now, some of these guys are really very good at what they've done because they've done it for a long time and they've got specialists within the area, within their organization. They understand the roles in their organization very well. Um, and so, therefore, if you're interested specifically in that organization, they're not bad people to talk to. However, they are only going to be looking at one job, and they're not interested in you per se. They are interested in um, basically getting a certain number of qualified candidates in front of the hiring manager as quickly as possible. They're not there to look after your needs. They're there to look after their company's needs. Whereas on the external side, the external specialist recruiter is interested in you. Um, he will be looking at a specific job, but he's looking at you, and he will match you into other potential opportunities where he sees them. So dealing with external recruiters is is a better, in my opinion, a better use of your time. And dealing with specialist external recruiters is um, is going to deliver you dividends in the longer term. And I'll come to that in a moment as well. The headhunter, well, the headhunter's been he's been retained to do a search. He is very specifically targeted at one particular job at one particular time. Um, and that is all he's really interested in. He's looking for the right candidates for that job. Uh, he's a good person to know because um, he will come back to you when he's got something that's more suited to you, and he will have a mechanism by which he can retain your information and recall it when it's relevant. But at that particular time, he's probably got one or two jobs on his desk, and he's actually only interested in the people that will fill those jobs. And if that's not quite you at this time, that's that isn't going to you're not going to be his priority. You're not going to be somebody that he's going to be specifically looking to help. Whereas our external recruiter, in a specialist sense, he's dealing with a particular niche of the network, and he is looking for people that fit that niche. And if you fit that niche, he is going to be working on your behalf, not directly on your behalf, but certainly a lot more effectively in the area that's relevant to you. Whereas our headhunter, they change around a bit. They don't do one specific subject. They may be in a particular area, but they're not so niche. They're not so focused on one particular area. So, what do you do then when you get a call, when you get a message, etc., etc.? Uh, you've got to segment that to understand who you're talking to. Um, is the first thing that you do, of course, is, oh, look, there's a role. And you get excited because you need a role. And you look at the role and you go, yeah, I'm a great fit for that role. And you send your CV into them, and you probably don't hear back again. And the reason why you're not hearing back again is because they're the generalist recruiter. If they're external, they're probably just going to throw your CV at a load of jobs and hope one of them sticks. If they're the internal recruiter, they're probably just going to sift it out when they don't find exactly what they're looking for. And when you consider that a good 70% of the market that's coming to you is that generalist recruiter whose sole aim is shifting CVs into a specific pile, then you've got to understand that you've got to be quite choosy with who you deal with. My opinion, this is my opinion, they neither group serve you well. Uh, Take the lead. Don't so have a look at the have a look at the job by all means. If you think you're a good fit for it, move away from the specialist. Sorry, move away from the recruiter and go directly to the hiring manager yourself. Put yourself forward to the hiring manager. Now, they probably won't tell you who that is, but it's not difficult to work out. You certainly probably work out who his boss is. And believe me, if they see a good candidate coming through who is who can demonstrate their achievements, their value into the role, they're not going to turn you away just because you haven't come through their recruitment process. So treat it as a lead. For those, so when you qualify these people, um, you need to ask them a few questions to discover what they actually know about the role in the first place. So ask them a little bit about what their understanding is of the role. Ask them questions like, what are the hiring manager looking to get from this? What are the specific must-haves in this job, etc., etc. If they sound like they're reading from a job spec and that's all they're doing, then they're probably a journalist. If they actually sound like they've done a little bit of research and they know what they're talking about, sorry, yeah, journalists, yeah. So if they've done a bit of research and know what they're talking about, then they're a specialist, or they're more likely to be a specialist, and it's worth going with them a bit further. The headhunter will tell you. He'll tell you exactly that he's retained to do a search, and you should, of course, give him as much time as needed until you've qualified that role in or out. And as soon as you've qualified it out, say thank you very much and walk away, because you don't, he isn't going to waste his time with you, and you shouldn't be wasting your time with him. It's as simple as that. That's one role he's interested in, maybe two at the most. He'll come back to you if he finds something that's relevant, but for now, there's no more to be done. So you need to be looking for specialist recruiters to work for. Specialist recruiters are very specifically targeted at one, maybe two or three job titles in a very narrow field of the market. And if you fit that narrow field of the market, he or she is a person that you need to be working with. He or she is a person that is going to be important to you going forward. She is the person that is going to be working on your behalf. And these are the people that you need to work with. Now, within Careers Mastery Revolution, I actually advocate that you become your own specialist recruiter, and you look at your own interest and manage your own interests, which is a very effective way of making sure you get to target the roles that you're interested in. However, if you can find somebody who's going to work on your behalf effectively, then that is definitely worth going for. That is definitely worth your time and effort. Qualify these people as specialists and work with them, because they will work on your behalf. As soon as they know that you're actively interested and are going to make a move, then they're going to do marketing of your CV on your behalf in a pretty effective way. The good guys will know how to understand you. They will know how to understand what you've achieved and the difference that you've made and the value that you bring. Now, there are obviously good and bad specialist recruiters, as there are good and bad generalist recruiters. So, you've got to gauge it for yourself how good or bad this individual is that's working with you. And that's not difficult to do. You'll get the gist of it fairly quickly. Do they know their market? Do they understand it well? Do they know what the hiring managers that they're working with are actually looking for? Have they got that in-depth knowledge? Or are they just a generalist on steroids who've stepped up into the space that hopefully to maybe make a little bit more money than they were as a generalist? So I hope I've given you some idea about the way that the recruitment industry is not a one size fits all. It's a you know, you've got to segment it. It is segmented. There are good people, there are bad people. There are specialists, there are generalists. If you are in a generalist job, generalist recruiters are good for you because they deal with a wide variety of different types of generalist jobs. But if you are specialized, you need a specialist, and it's really quite that simple. Identify the specialist, work with the specialist. Ideally, I would say, unless you have a specific interest in one or other company, you're wasting your time with internal recruiters anyway. They are only interested in what's on their desk that day, and once they've got their shortlist, they've finished. They've gone. They ain't coming back to you. It's really quite that simple. Okay, so this is James Foster from the Careers Mastery Revolution. If you want to know more about what we do and how we do it, I have a career mastery guide, which is going to talk to you about how you can transform your career, how you can move your career to the next level. This career mastery guide on the screen now, and in the link is in the description to this video. It's free. It will help you to understand what we do and how we can help take your career to the next level. Get your career mastery guide today, and maybe we can talk again later in the future. Thanks very much. This is James Foster, and Careers Matter.